Hello there, I'm Kai from Lovelawns. Thanks for tuning in to another video. I hope you find this one useful. Before we get started in this video, I just want to let you know that this video is not sponsored by Squarespace. Would you believe? We've been testing out the newish Stihl HLA66 pole hedger for a couple of months now, and I thought it would be a good time to share my thoughts and my feedback about this pole hedger and let you know what we think about it. We were using the previous version of this about 2 years ago, for about 2 years, before switching over to Husqvarna for most of our handheld tools. So I wanted to give you my feedback, share my thoughts, and let you know what we think about the HLA66. So with the HLA66, most of the changes you'll see are pretty much cosmetic. Nothing major has changed with this update, to be honest, which is a bit of a shame, to be fair. I really think they could have done quite a bit more with this and taken it up, right up there to the current competition, or indeed exceeded it. But for whatever reason, Stihl have made mostly cosmetic changes with this particular model. So the first thing I want to talk about is the blade speed, which is the most controversial thing out there, I guess, in terms of hedges. You know, what people think of blade speeds and whatnot. But the fact is, this remains unchanged at 3,000 cuts per minute, which is exactly the same as the previous model. And that was the biggest downside and the biggest complaint or point about the previous model that most people were unhappy with, is the blade speed. And for whatever reason, Stihl decided to not change that, which is strange. And I think they've missed a beat there. I think they could have really improved this machine a heck of a lot just by improving that. So this is 3,000 cuts per minute. Let's have a listen to what that sounds like. Blade speed is variable with the trigger here, so you can have it slow, fast, in between. You're just always going to want full speed with this though, because it's not that fast to start with. Now I know that blade speed isn't the be all and end all, and it doesn't make or break a hedger, but I do find it does make quite a bit of difference in real world use, and I've noticed it. From using hedgers with faster blade speeds to going to this one, I can notice a difference, and not just in the speed, but not just in the blade speed, but the speed at which I can work at. I'm not going through hedges like a crazy man at 100 miles an hour, but I work at a certain speed, and I've noticed that this doesn't allow me to work at that speed. And that's noticeable, and that over time will impact your productivity a little bit. It doesn't cut quite as well, in my opinion, as a faster blade speed does either. In terms of the actual preciseness, the speed, the quality of the cut isn't quite there, I don't reckon. When you buy this, it's brand new, the blades are sharp, it cuts nicely, and it's not that it doesn't cut nicely, it's just not quite as nice, in my opinion, as a unit with a faster blade speed. One thing I will note about this though is, although the blade speed is a little bit slower than some of them, the motor is very torquey, and I reckon you can cut through some pretty thick stuff with this, thicker than you might with some other makes. And it just keeps going, like it doesn't stop. It just says, righto, you know, if you're going to cut through this bamboo with me, I'm going to chew my way through it. I'll be a little bit slower, but I'm going to get through it. And that's, you know, I think that must be because it's got a slightly torquier motor than some. It just does it slightly slower. So I think, you know, if you want the best of both worlds, bit of speed, or faster speed and the torque, then you're going to have to step up to the Stihl HLA 135, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Whilst it is a little bit slower, and I do notice that, it still has some pretty good torque for a battery one, and it will cut through some pretty thick stuff, which I've been quite impressed with. And I found that with the previous model too, the HLA 65, which, as I said earlier, I used, I think I said it earlier, I used it for about 2 years, non-stop, and I totally abused that thing. I didn't look after it at all really, other than keeping the blades sharpened and greased and stuff. And it didn't miss a beat, it never stopped. And I put that through some real thick stuff, some chunky bamboo, some real hefty viburnum hedges, and stuff that you wouldn't really expect it to go through, and it did, and it didn't stop. So, and I don't expect this to be any different. Edging with a view. Before we go on with this review, I just want to point out that these thoughts and this information I'm sharing with you is only my opinion, and it is my humble opinion. You know, take it for what it is. Really, it's I do have some experience in the industry. I do use these day in and day out all the time, so there is some value in that. But it is my opinion, and I'm, you know, very different to you. Thankfully, we're all different. That's a good thing, because it would be very boring if we weren't. But just bear that in mind, you know, that what I'm sharing with you might not be as valuable to you as it is to me, or as important. So just wanted to point that out, you know, let's keep the comments nice and kind. I think we need more kindness in the world than anything else at the moment. So taking a look at the business end, we have a 500mm long blade. We have a double-sided cutting blade with a tooth spacing of 33mm, which is fairly standard and the same as the previous model. It's not a bad blade. It's strong, it's sturdy, it cuts well, it sharpens well, no dramas with the blade. One of the things I do like that it comes with is a tip protector is included. I think all hedgers should come with that included. It makes a big difference when you're up against walls and floors and stuff. Just protects the blades really, which is great. It does unfortunately still come with a plastic gear housing protector or casing, which is a bit of a shame really. I think, you know, some of the other models out there have a metal version of that. So, but you know, again that previous model I had for 2 years, no problems with this at all. You know, every now and then I'd take these off, give it a grease up, stick it back on. It never broke, never cracked, no problem. Although I do wish it was metal. Same motor as the previous model, no changes there. But one thing I do like is it now turns, or the angle of adjustment is now, that's the first point, it's 135 degrees according to the Stihl website, and it goes all the way around in increments to there. So I think the previous model was 105 or 120, I think it was 105. So ever so slightly more on this model. And then obviously you can also fold it basically in half for easy storage or transportation, which is great. I really like that feature. And you know, all the different increments that you can put this into, it means that you can effectively get to and reach any shape of hedge imaginable, really. And it makes it easy to do high stuff, you know, low stuff, whatever. It works. It's good. No dramas, no complaints. Very easy to use. You just pull this down, fold it over. And in use as well, you know, when you're hedging, you've got it out there, you're up the top of a ladder or whatever, you can just grab this. You know, you're hedging away, you just grab this, and then you can adjust it by just sort of waving it around to where it needs to be, which in use is good. It works well. Moving down to the other end of the tool, you'll see most of the changes. We've got a different shape, different style battery casing, different style handle and trigger. So the the casing has been changed where you insert the battery. It's now completely in line with the handle in the middle. So you don't get any of that on the previous model, because it dipped down a little bit here. When you were hedging on the side like that, it would constantly kind of want to pull down. This one doesn't really do that. It stays pretty much flat, which is great. And you do notice that it's less fatiguing over time. And I haven't had any of these batteries, that was a bit heavy, fall out on me in use, which I did have with the previous model a couple of times. These are pretty sturdy the way they go in there, and you've also got protection on the base there. So when you're placing it down on the ground, it's not on the battery, it's protected by the actual base of the machine, which is good. So moving down to the handle, it's an update, but unfortunately, in my opinion, it just is no better. It's worse than the old one. I just don't find it very comfortable or ergonomically great to use when I'm actually using the hedger. Standing here doing it, it's okay, it's easy, but actually in use, when you're holding this thing up in the air, swinging it around, you know, your hands are sweaty, you know, this 3-stage thing is just a pain in the arse, to be honest. And I don't know why still continue to do this sort of 3-stage mechanism thing. Just have an on-off button, and then this 2-stage. That's it, that's all you need. You don't need all this other stuff. Like, honestly, it's just annoying. And, you know, it's not a big deal by any stretch of the imagination. It really isn't. And I've been using it fine as it is, but it does bug me. And it's worth pointing out, because every day I get a little bit frustrated with it, and it's just a niggle. And, you know, it doesn't need to be like that. It could be better. So it's updated, but it's not improved in my opinion. It's the same on the FSA 130, the previous line trimmer that I've been using for a while now. The handle on that is just rubbish as well. Like, it's just a poor design. And this, in my opinion, is not a very good design either. So the handle's good though. It's rubbery, it's nice and grippy, but this, I'm afraid to say, is not the best. So, but like I said, it's not a big deal. It still works absolutely fine. I just think it could be a bit better. So the overall, I think this is real gardener talk here, I think this is probably one of the best looking hedges, pole hedges on the market. I think it looks great. And not just looks wise, but it's built really well, but it's built really well at a good weight as well. It's 3.8 kilograms without a battery, up ever so slightly on the 3.4 of the last model, but that makes a big difference when you're holding it out. As most of you will know, you're holding it out there, trying to do the tops of all these big massive hedges that everyone loves these days. The lighter the better. And this is 3.8 kilograms without a battery, and that's really good in comparison to the competition. And it's built, you know, it's plastic. Like I said earlier, this, you know, it's all plastic, but it's strong plastic. And I think it's the same plastic as the previous model, and I never had any problems with that. It was, and as I said, that lasted me 2 years, and I didn't look after it at all, really. The only reason I lost it or stopped using it was because it fell out the trailer and got stolen. So, you know, who knows if that's still going? That would be going on nearly 4 years if it is. But at that point, I swapped brands and went with Husqvarna, and I love the pole hedger. I think it's great, and I think this is built more or less the same in terms of the overall build. I think there are quite a few key differences from this and some of the other brands, which we'll talk about in a future video. But yeah, the weight's really good. And the other thing I love about this is the battery. The battery life, it's just incredible. It will last all day, no problem. I use it with this AP300S. I think it's quite well balanced and not too heavy. But I think you know, I can use this hedger for hours and hours through a day. And the battery will either show still 4 bars, or it might just have used 1 bar and be showing 3, and it will outdo me any day of the week. So battery life in these are fantastic. So another point to mention with this Stihl HLA 66 is it's not afraid of a bit of rain. So the Stihl's official terminology is it's not affected by the weather. So I don't quite know what that means. I guess it doesn't need a pair of gloves if it gets cold, or it doesn't need a rain mac. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend hedging, you know, in the rain or hedging underwater, but it can handle a bit of rain. And you know, if it's early morning and there's dew or whatever on the hedges, it will cut through and not be affected by that, which is good. I'm not sure what the official, or if there is an official IPX rating, but I haven't done too much hedging with this one in the rain, but the previous model I got caught out many times and no dramas at all. As long as you keep the gearbox, you know, if you're hedging a lot in the rain, the water gets in and it can kind of dilute the gear, the grease in here. So you got to keep an eye on that. But other than that, never had any dramas, and I don't expect this one to be any different either. So in summary, what do we think of the Stihl HLA 66? Well, in all honesty, it's not a bad hedger. Would I recommend it? I probably wouldn't recommend this particular hedger to anyone of a similar nature to myself, because I think if you're going to stick with Stihl, you'd probably be better off with the HLA 135, which is more powerful, has a faster blade speed, and has the motor's at the back rather than here, so it has a different feel, a different balance. It's a bit lighter up here, so I think that would probably be a better choice in terms of if you want a Stihl pole hedger. If you're just looking at a pole hedger and you're not already in the Stihl market, you don't already have Stihl batteries and stuff, then I would recommend a different one of the other brands over this one, probably. Certainly for what we do. I think, not sure if this is marketed at, well, it is marketed at commercial users because it's part of their Stihl AP professional range, but I just think it falls a little bit short in terms of what we actually need. Mostly the blade speed, the metal gear housing, and a different, better type of switch. Other than that, it's pretty good. Like, it is a good hedger. I just think there's better ones out there, and that's it really. I think they could have done more with this if they'd sorted out those few things. But it's not a bad hedger. I just think there's, even in the Stihl range, there's better ones. And if you're going outside of Stihl ranges, outside of the Stihl brand, I would recommend a different brand. So I will compare it to some of the other brands in a future video. And it's a bit of a shame really, because it's a popular model, and I think they could have done a bit more with this in the update, and they could have had a real good tool. But for whatever reason they didn't, and it is what it is. So it just falls a bit short, I think, in comparison to some of the others that are on the market now. So when this first came out, it was one of the first ones, and it was great because there wasn't anything else. But things have moved on a bit, and although the cosmetic changes that they have done are very welcome, it's not quite enough in my opinion. So yeah, that's pretty much it, I think, on the Stihl HLA 66. Thank you for watching. I hope you found some value in this video, and I do appreciate your time. I know we're all pretty busy these days, so I try and keep these as short as I can, but yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that, and please consider subscribing and liking if you did, and thumbs upping and all that kind of stuff. That'd be great, and I will see you all in the next video. Have a good one. Cheers.